This is the Geekey, and this is a very cheap clone from AliExpress. The Geekey is a multi-tool that came out very few years ago. It's one of the first, I think, on this configuration. It has a very unique double type screwdriver that can accommodate both Phillips and flathead, and it's been copied very much, or it inspired many other similar very minimalist tools, such as this Toolkey 2, but this was pretty much the original, and it's been copied in different ways, but there's also clones that attempt to have exactly the same shape minus the logo, and I want to see what's similar and different between the clone and the original. One of the differences is the material. It is a completely different color material, and it's a bit softer. If you were to scratch it with something a bit hard, this one scratches easier, and this is a little harder depending on what you use. If you use a knife or a file, but you can see here this has a softer finish, so definitely different material, or at least a different heat treatment, but I think they probably use a cheaper material. These are made by a technology called the metal injection molding, and here you can see this is probably where the metal was being injected, and then they cut here, but you have it marked. This was injected here with a different like a slit versus it was more of a maybe a round channel, hard to tell. And they have these marks typical of kind of injection molded items, which are kind of in slightly different places. Well, this one is in the same place, but you can tell they're being made in a different mold. This has more of these ejection pin marks. This one doesn't have some here. So definitely not made in the same mold or the exact same shape. So there's a couple differences. So one is this has this hole here for the pipe, because this is made in 420 steel. Get it? 420. So this one doesn't have such hole. This is difficult to manufacture. Probably requires a certain precision in the metal injection molding. So this is a little more crudely made. For example, for this ball, the different shape, and there's a bit of a defect there, maybe in the molding. You can see that curvature line. So some subtle differences in the shape. The clone is a little bit shorter. Overall, it doesn't go as long, and the weight, believe it or not, is different too. I'm gonna see the original Geekey. The weight is 23.5 grams. Let's see if we can see it. It's hard to see in this light. 23 grams for the original. For the clone, let's see, 25. So the clone is heavier, which is kind of strange because it's shorter. Let's take a look at the thickness. Is the clone thicker or not? So let's measure the original Geekey. So it's pretty much 5 millimeters, eh? Let's see the clone. Oh, pretty much the same. Okay, 5. So the thickness is quite similar, I would say. does it depend on where you measure it? $504 for the original here. $199. I would say the clone is slightly thinner than the original Geekey. So the clone is thinner, shorter and heavier, so definitely different density material. And it doesn't have the hole, so this is some sort of alloy or something that's completely different than the original Geekey. This is much cheaper, like about $3, and these are more in the 17 to 25 depending on the deals. Also, Geekey is about to launch the Geekey 2.0 that they had a Indiegogo campaign, and I think later in the year hopefully they will launch or basically start shipping it. So yeah, more to come for the Geekey, but this clone is it looks exactly the same at first sight. Now you have these rulers, there's some differences. So the ruler is more accurate in the original, believe it or not. So for the 1 inch, it's easy to see. For the 1 inch is a pretty much perfect matching with the ruler. Let's see if we can line it up. I would call that pretty exact. Now if we take the clone, it seems to fall slightly short. It's a tiny bit shorter for the 1 inch, and then for the millimeters, this is the clone. We try to line it up perfectly. Clone is a bit shorter in the millimeters. And let's see the original Geekey. Pretty exact. So this ruler is more reliable than the original. And the clone also, they have this file sections completely different. The original has a finer teeth, and the clone has a more larger separation, and I think it's probably not as sharp. Now when they make these other different brands, they have even finer teeth and longer. So, but just if we focus on the Geekey, yeah, different type. If you were attempting to use this as a nail file, this one kind of works. This one just slides. Also, because this is softer material, I don't think this will perform as well. Something I've seen in forums, people say you can cut a fishing line with the Geekey. So this has this little cutting section. If you just pull, it cuts the fishing line, and the clone, I think, performs pretty much the same. So in that sense, they're the same. I'm gonna pull, and yes, it cuts into 2 pieces. Hard to see. So that performs well. I found a little thing where the clone is better. This was pretty strange. If if you were to try to use this for a 4mm screwdriver, there's not much you can do with this. Maybe you can barely do it with that hexagon. And what's more interesting is this notch. In the original, this doesn't really engage with a 4mm, but the clone, probably accidentally, perfectly engages a 4mm driver. So if you were to, you could even kind of maybe transport one with your key and then drive it with this. I think that could be pretty effective. So that's the only, I think, benefit of the clone, but some of the other parts are worse, such as the rulers and the file. I cannot tell too much about the durability of the material. This is considered probably better because it's a quality finish. The whole thing about this is that with the same screwdriver you could drive both flathead and Phillips. Some sort of ingenious mechanism, and the clone does the same. The screwdriver is a little bit differently shaped, not exactly the same shape. So this is the original Geekey. It has slightly different features. This screwdriver has a sharp edge on the side that will be used to, let's say, open packages. In the clone, it doesn't have that sharpness. So it is a different shape in that very end of the screwdriver. And that's kind of interesting. How will this compare with the screw pop? Screw pop is even more reinforced. So a screw pop is more similar to the Geekey, but I think has a bit of a larger that sideways Phillips component, but they're more or less similar concept. This screw is too big for this, but still kind of works. Now, if you need a minimalist tool, also remember I'm selling these on Etsy. It's a little hard to sell because they're small items and I have issues with the shipping. If you follow the rules of shipping, you don't send this as a letter. You send it in some kind of box or package, and it's very expensive for a small package. So unless you're a big retailer, selling very small items is a little tough. I haven't figured it out. So in any case, it was fun to compare the Geekey and the clone from AliExpress. Honestly, I thought this clone would be much worse. I've seen some pictures and some look terrible. It wasn't as bad, and it has this capability for the 4mm. Will that make you prefer the clone versus the original? I don't know. Maybe not. If you're a super collector, maybe you want to have those two just to kind of have fun and compare them. Sometimes, at least I didn't copy the brand, so it's not a counterfeit. It's just a pretty close clone with some differences. The fact that this is cloned, that means really that it's a successful product, that people like it, recognize it. So if I were the designer of the Geekey, I'll be happy that it gets cloned because it means people care about this. And also the new one is coming soon, which could be interesting to test. And the big thing about this is that it's just like a key, and you keep it with, if you can bring keys somewhere, you can bring this. First one is very safe to bring in airplanes, and then you get that feeling of having a multi-tool. It's like really practical. I don't know, in terms of actually using all these wrenches, I haven't seen myself using them too much. There's a bike spoke tool, but in theory this solves lots of problems. It has this protractor, which I don't know how we're supposed to use it. Maybe you can line up something to it. I suppose you could do some sort of thing where you line it up. But yeah, you get a good ruler, somewhat decent file, gimmicky screwdriver. This is bottle opener, cut small strings. So this is for a hexagonal 1/4 inch bit, so it has kind of two places for hexagonal bit driver. So yeah, all in all, interesting. It's a piece of history of EDC, because then this started a bit of a new industry of these key-shaped EDCs, and this minimalist tool you can have always with you also inspired me to make this one that you can get on Etsy, especially if you don't live outside the United States. It's a little bit cheaper to ship inside. In any case, thank you for watching. Have a good day.